Okay. We will call the meeting to order and welcome everybody to the December meeting of the Monroe County Land Bank Corporation. We've got a busy agenda today, which will include approval of last month's meeting minutes, treasurer's report. We'll talk about our budget for next year. We have a resolution regarding second signatory. We'll have an update on our properties. Talk about the RFPs for accounting, bookkeeping, and legal. And then our meeting schedule for 2026. Start off with a roll call. I, Kevin Purcell, as chair and here. Anna Liss, not here currently. Amy Grande.
Here.
Orlando Ortiz.
Present.
Deborah Campanella, not here currently. Jennifer Cesario.
Here.
And Thalia Wright is not going to be attending today. We do have a quorum. Current. First item on the agenda is approval of last month's meeting, the October 15th meeting minutes. Does anybody present have any corrections to the meeting minutes from October 15th? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve those meeting minutes as distributed?
Second.
Thank you, thank you. Are all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, great. We will move on to announcements and communications. First thing, and very exciting, is that we officially have C. Segal has joined us. And is going to be part of the Department of Planning. Do I have that correct? Or
Technically an MCIDC employee,
right.
but we do the land bank for 20 hours a week.
Very excited. So C, do you want to, I know you know some people in the room, but you want to briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you all for having me. My name is C. I am currently an MCDC employee, who's planning for 20 hours a week. Prior to this role, I was working with the public team, where I looked over contracts and held up all kinds of compliance metrics. We'll be doing a similar role here.
I'm very excited. It's been nearly a month now because of the meeting being canceled last week, but it's been great. Between C, Grace, Lisa, we have really made a lot of headway in the last month or so because we just have enough people to actually get the work done.
Got a real team.
Yeah, exciting.
Fantastic. Next announcement, this relates to our Homes and Community Renewal has officially approved our budgetary changes for 25 and 26. Most of those I know are related to C's position. We also have the LBI funding from New York State is coming up for renewal at the end of January. So we are preparing documentation to make sure that happens as needed. Next thing, Pat attended a housing event held by Reimagine Rock Housing. You want to maybe fill us in on that, Pat?
Yeah, so some of you may be familiar with Reimagine Rock Housing. They are a group of housing advocates in the area who understand that we need more housing of all varieties, and they are working to try to, through education and training and applying a little pressure with municipalities, helping make that happen. They recognize the need, and so they held a meeting sometime in November, bringing in developers, builders, municipalities, just to talk about some of the issues that we all are aware of. We as the land bank were invited to that, and as the county. So we learned, we listened, we talked about some potential solutions, but mostly identified some of the challenges and what they hope to do moving forward. The outcome of that is still very unclear, but it is heartening to hear that there's lots of people trying to work on this issue who aren't just people who sit in offices like mine or yours and think about this on a day-to-day basis. So it was good, and hopefully it will. It did allow us as well to make a connection with a local area modular home builder who may or may not be able to respond to our modular home RFP in the future. So learned about a new company, which is good.
Excellent. Any questions for Pat on that? Okay. We'll move on to our treasurer's report. Amy?
The treasurer's report I have two, one for October 1st through October 31st and one for November through the end of November. They're both the same. The beginning balance for October 1st was $76.81. There were no deposits and no withdrawals. The ending balance was $7,681. November first, opening balance 7681, no deposits, no withdrawals. The ending balance is 7681.
I'll ask if anyone has questions, although I imagine there'll be few.
Lots of activity
Very
there.
busy.
Thanks, Amy. Next item on the agenda is our 2026 budget. If people recall, at the October meeting, we made some requests to allocate funds for advertising, signage, and then some for real estate professionals. I believe it was 2,000 for the advertising signage and 15,000 for real estate professionals.
Correct, yep.
While there is some budget flexibility, we weren't able to get to that exact amount. Pat, do you wanna kind of fill in on these details?
Yeah, so when I started to plug in the numbers, we were over budget with that 15,000 in real estate services. Specifically, what I did is kept the 2,000 for advertising signage, which is ideally meant to be marketing for when we have properties to show and show our good work. And I put the remaining $5,000 in real estate services, so it's $10,000 less than what we approved last week. I wanted to make the board aware of that and see if there were any issues with that and if we need to do anything to ratify that. To Kevin's point, there is some flexibility. There's a good chance that we will not use some of the other budgetary lines. And towards the end of the year, we could potentially allocate from them to real estate services if we find there's greater need there. So I think that I'm comfortable with it being reduced at this point, and I think that there's the opportunity to move if needed. But that is up to the board. I just want to make sure, because it wasn't what we discussed, I want to make sure you're aware of it. So that way you look at the budget, you don't wonder why it's missing $10,000.
Understood. Questions on that? Okay. All right, we'll move on to our next item agenda, which is a resolution regarding a second signatory. This would be changing our internal control and finance policy. Give a little background on kind of maybe,
Yeah,
you know, what
not
we're.
a change to the internal
Oh,
control and
okay.
finance policy. The policy requires that we need to designate a second signatory appointed by resolution of the board of directors. We didn't do that when we adopted this
Yep.
policy or thereafter. And so we should do that, so that way we have it. You may recall, we kind of had a very similar discussion when we talked about the LBI funding. Different funding streams often require you to designate multiple signatories. Our policy allows us or requires us to designate a second signatory. So it's more of a formality more than anything in terms of figuring out who that is in the event that we don't have the treasurer able to sign the check specifically. Yeah, so Amy is the person who is authorized by the internal control and finance policy. In the event she's unable, we need someone else to be able to sign checks. And so I'll leave it to the board to decide who makes sense. I can tell you that with the LBI funding, the persons authorized to request funds from New York State are Kevin, Amy, and Vice Chair Annalise. So it might make sense to include one of those people onto that, but that is up to the board to decide. Deb, welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry
to be late.
No worries.
Worries.
I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, that's. I think that, fine with me. Do you have any? Okay,
Deb, you
Deb,
need me to catch you up,
yeah.
or are you?
No.
Sorry, go on.
sounds like there's consensus on having it be that the second signatory is the chairperson.
Mhm.
So I will make a motion to approve the chairperson, Kevin Burcell, as second signatory for checks per section 3 via the internal control and finance policy.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Wonderful.
Quick question, going back to the draft meeting schedule, do we need to vote on that or?
Yeah,
Okay, because,
we'll get to it at the end,
Perfect.
but we can move it up now.
no, that's fine. I was just going down the agenda and I,
We
I don't know if we-
considered it I brought it to you last month, so that way we all had time to review and figure out if there's any schedule issues, but we do need to formally adopt it.
okay.
Yeah, that's coming up quickly. But before that, we will turn to Amy to see if there are any updates on our property transfer referral or our free property.
We do
properties.
have an update. The real property office for the deeds to transfer to Monroe County have been drafted and the ledge paperwork was prepared and submitted for December the 5th. Processing. We will have that adopted on February 10th. The taxable status date for the towns is March 1st, so ideally, we would have both the deed into the county and into the land bank recorded prior to March 1st, so that's a 2-week window to get that done, so that we are able to achieve our tax exemption status without a lot of extra paperwork involved and correction of tax rules. So we would like to have that request done. I also have paperwork pertaining to all of this documentation and taxable status dates. And the 1608 acquisition of property not-for-profit law, if anyone needs to see it to have a level of comfort. Just in case you wanted it.
So the March 1st taxable status date, just to make sure that I'm pretty certain I understand that, but that's on that date. Property owners are essentially locked in for whose name is gonna be on the bill, what exemptions you can get. And if it happens after that, you have to go through jump through some more hoops to change it after the fact.
It reflects the ownership as of March 1st and the corresponding exemption deadline. Now we are able to get that exemption no matter what day we take ownership. It's just a matter of how many pieces of paper need to be filled out to achieve that goal. If it happens prior to March 1st, it's a much more streamlined process.
And based off of the dates that we have, that you just listed, do you think that it is realistic that we can get all three of them in both places before the
I do.
first day? Okay.
I do.
Excellent. Great. Other question, anybody else have questions for Amy on the property transfer referral process timing?
Is there any chance that the adoption date will not be the February 10th date?
Hopefully not, that is up to the legislature. Once it's submitted, it goes through their hands and it's out of our hands.
Okay.
Won't be any earlier just because of the way the process
No.
works, but I would hope that it would go on February 10th. I would
I
doubt.
can't imagine it wouldn't.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that it wouldn't.
Seems like an exciting thing for everyone involved, so I hope that they'll see that as well.
Okay. We will now move on to our next item agenda, which is a discussion of the merits of the responses to our RFPs. And we are going to go into executive session at this time to start that review.
We need a motion for that.
Yes, we do. Can I get a motion for us to go into executive session?
So moved.
Deb, can I?
Can we just state the reasons?
Yes, sorry. Can I have a motion to go into executive session for us to review our RFPs to determine for auditing, accounting, and legal RFPs?
Second.
Can I get a motion first?
Moved. I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we will now enter executive session.
No.
Okay, so we have exited executive session. After a robust discussion, there are no motions for today's board meeting, in regards to those RFPs. So we're gonna move on to our next item agenda, which is our 2026 draft schedule for our meetings for this board. The draft version number 2, all meetings starting at 3:30, and you'll see. Well, before I continue, are there things that have changed? I see change date, but I'm not sure if that means change from the last time this circulated or change from its.
We can do that.
Okay, thank you.
The Wednesday, April 8th and the Wednesday, July 8th were basically when I first chose them, it was after the ledge meeting, which I thought was a requirement. It is not, so we are fine doing it the actual second week of that month. If that makes sense.
April 8th.
Oh.
So the dates that are in here would be the second week of the
Oh,
month,
okay.
which is when we're supposed to meet.
Yeah,
I
we had
had
it for
looked at
the,
a week because I thought we had a date after ledge.
Got it.
Okay.
And then the date of June 10th, I accidentally wrote June 11th, even though the Wednesday was correct. And then on the November 12th is the still, just because of the Veterans Day fall on Wednesday. But we're gonna be done.
Okay. We don't need a motion for this, do we?
We should motion to adopt the
Okay.
schedule, yeah.
All right. But does anybody have any comments, questions, concerns, conflicts that they want to flag?
I have a conflict with April 8th. I'll be out of the country.
I hope some more fun.
Yes, somewhere sunny.
We will all be jealous of you on that date.
I
Just
do,
one person.
I do June and July.
Unless we, I don't know if anybody else knows they have conflicts. If not, as we get closer, if we
Yeah.
have multiples, we can always look to move dates. Can I get a motion to approve the draft version number 2 of the 2026 Hope Land Bank meeting times and dates? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, fantastic. Okay, next on the agenda, other business. We have a fun one, our logo. Great.
So it's also included in the packet if you want to look to it, like the last page. So we did finalize based off the comments received from the last survey. To finalize the logo with communications with one minor edit to remove the little smoke that was above the chimney. So that was the only modification that was made. 3 color versions were provided, the original color, which is the blue and the green, white version, and black for various documents if we need it. So we could discuss if this is the logo that we'd like to go with, or possibly looking to expand funds to kind of go in a different direction, or if we're happy with what we have.
Yeah, I'm happy. How about others?
Works for me.
Excellent. We've got ourselves a logo.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Grace.
All right. So, we don't technically need to, but I think it would be worth, formally adopting this as our logo to use on our letterhead and things. So if people are supportive of that, I would encourage that.
So let's make a motion and make this our formal logo for the land bank.
We got it.
I will make that motion. Anyone a second? Orlando, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Nice work.
Formally
Yeah.
adopted. Thank you so much, the team, and specifically Grace for all your work.
Hi.
Last thing, last piece of other business is the modular housing discussion. And Pat, I'm gonna turn to you
Yeah.
for this one.
So, we've talked about modular housing for a little while now, and before we get to a point where, we start, publicly, drafting an RFP, or I should say, publicly releasing an RFP for modular housing, I just wanted to make sure the board all understood what that meant and talk about some of the options before we move there. And so, modular housing is a category that includes both true modular housing and cross modular housing. The difference is that modular housing is not built on a typical kind of trailer that you pull behind your car. It is more of a traditional foundation where it can be set on site with a crane. Cross mod is a cross between a manufactured product and a modular product. What that means is on a trailer or like a mobile home base with wheels. When it is set on site, the surrounding blocking that you see, which you would normally think is foundation, it's actually just skirting. It is supported in other ways. And I should use slides a little bit because they give a little bit more detail, but both of them can be built in a factory offsite very quickly. Generally 6 to 8 weeks, depending on what you're working with, where you're working with, then delivered on site. They come with almost everything inside of them. Well, they do come with pretty much everything inside of them that you would anticipate. They generally have roof lines that can be popped up when they're on site. So that way they resemble a traditional roof line. And so that's kind of the same for both the cross mod and modular. The main difference the main difference I want to draw to you is two things. The modular might in some ways resemble more a traditional house because it can have a basement if you want. That increases costs, of course. It also has less of a challenge with title. So a modular unit, because it is affixed to the real property, is the traditional title that anyone with a house that was built on site, stick built, would have. A cross mod is under a DMV title because it is considered a manufactured home product. There is potentially a law in New York State that could make it so that once it's affixed to a property, it becomes more of a traditional real estate option. But as of right now, there is some work that needs to happen to if we were to build a cross mod, we would need a DMV title, and then we would need a land sale as well. So it complicates things a little bit, not impossible, not insurmountable, and still is a cheaper product in terms of overall cost than a true modular. So I want to make the board aware of that because we are in the process in-house of drafting an RFP for what we potentially may procure to put on these sites. And I want to see if the board has opinions one way or the other about that. As far as appraisal and other issues related to these products, depending on who you ask, they'll give you a different opinion. Some will tell you that both will appraise at a very comfortable number based on what was invested. Others will tell you that the cross mod will appraise a little bit lower and the modular will appraise higher. Based on the recent experience in Syracuse, that I think they might have sold that, but they're in the process of. It did appraise for above what the house is actually worth in terms of investment, so it did meet those qualifications. But there's just nuance and change that I want to make sure the board is aware of. The city of Rochester, and then the other thing is related to how specific we want to be when we are releasing an RFP. We can be very specific and, spell out every detail, or we can be slightly higher level and make the manufacturer meet certain specifications. There are different approaches. City of Rochester has specifications in their RFP that was just recently announced for that project. This is what was in there. You can see that they have some very general comments and statements about things. If you go to Livingston County, they have a bit more specificity, a bit more shall, rather than tell us about what's going on. And then this is kind of going into that explanation of kind of the spectrum of factory built delivered on site products, manufactured, cross modular, modular. And so I just want to know if the board has any thoughts on that. Do they have, here we go, here's some examples. This is the Syracuse unit I visited and previously showed you pictures of. This is a better picture after they finalized the landscaping. This is a rendering, but it is a true modular unit that is, craned on the site. So it potentially has a basement. The garage is attached. This unit does have a garage. It's just stick built and set off in the back. So that is kind of irrelevant for the picture, but just letting you know that there are differences. They both look relatively similar. They have differences, but not not enough that it changes the aesthetic of the final product, in my opinion. What does the board have thoughts on related to that? I want to make sure before we draft an RFP, we're all on the same page as to what we are potentially putting on site.
Do the towns care which type to go?
So technically by law, they can't, but that doesn't mean that they can't.
They won't, right.
They won't. I tend to favor the modular one, but with no basements, I'm okay, I
agree.
guess. I'm seeing a lot more of those newer built with just slabs and, you know, the houses on top of it, but
So which, I may have misunderstood your preference. You have seen more of the cross modular product. Is that a
No.
good or a bad thing?
no modular, just with no basements.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I haven't seen the cross modular in my experience.
And we could make so we can make the RFP, allow for either. And that's probably the best situation, so that way we can potentially get options. The modular is gonna be more expensive. It might fit into our parameters, and maybe we can fund that type of construction and maybe have assurance that it is a, higher value product in the end. Well, leaving room for a cross modular, which is gonna be cheaper and easier for us, or I should say, it will allow us the ability to make sure that we can get 3 sites built for sure. And it will allow us to make sure that we can comfortably sell this at a price point that is comfortable to everyone.
Well, it doesn't hurt to get all of that information, so you can make that
decision
at a later
And present to the board, yeah.
Right.
That would be, whatever we get, of course, we'll do the same thing, bring it back to everyone.
Can
That,
both types be put into all 3 properties?
Well, and basically, if we get that ported out, we could take the site together with these 2 ideas and get formal approval for what we're getting ready to do before we incur any risk.
Yeah, so typically with all these RFPs for these type of products that land banks have done elsewhere, they include the specific sites. So that way the bidders can identify whether they can fit their product or not.
So that means, to me, that means that you're better sort of being broader, not specifying one or the other, because if one of these sites is not doable
yeah,
for one type, we might exclude that site.
Makes sense.
It could very well be that one is more suitable for one than the other as
Mhm.
well.
Yep.
I favor the modular as well, just, I think I
Well,
would
that's
put
fine.
it out there. See what happens.
you commented on the pilot that the city's doing, is that is modular, right?
I think there's this cross modular,
Is
but I
it?
could be
Okay.
wrong.
With Cook Properties, then they're doing 9 units.
It says manufacturer or modular.
Still be far less than stick built.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
So typically, based on what I've heard, this, if you do an apples for apples in terms of square footage and all the other things, this, if you had a basement, is about $100,000 more. Just because of, you know, the work that goes into that. Doesn't mean, and,
Meaning like 250 versus 350?
exactly, yeah.
But your end product,
If you had a basement.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily need to. Like he was saying,
Yeah.
like he was saying, you just do that
Yeah.
without the basement, and move on.
We can see if that's any cheaper, but I don't know that there's advantages to the true modular concept without a basement, because it's just as easy to back one of those up. The product doesn't necessarily change dramatically, other than the basement area.
Okay,
There are some differences in terms of how they're built, like I said, that trailer base, but that doesn't actually affect the house overall. It affects how the law views that property.
Does it
So-
give you enough, sorry, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No, please.
Does
yeah.
it make it more, I mean, I just like wondering from a selling point, is it going to be easier and more appealing to people to buy something with the regular?
Amy, you want to speak to that?
I think there's something to be said for that, just as an end user, what would I'm gonna use me, what would I navigate towards first glance? And I would navigate, much like what I'm hearing, towards the modular. I think if we have the ability to do it financially, that would be the way to go, especially considering the DMV situation. If we cannot, then these cross modulars are absolutely gorgeous also.
the modular will, from my experience and knowledge, the modular holds their value much better.
And there's something to be said for that. We're trying to set people up to build generational wealth. So if it's feasible,
That, to your point, Jennifer, that has been a concern with other land banks. It hasn't come to fruition yet. They're just worried that they'll bring someone on, get them moving through the process, and then realize there's kind of difference in the mortgage, and it might halt things or change things in a way that makes it so that you have to find the right buyer. I mean, you always have to find the right buyer, but a very specific buyer who's willing to take that on. So there are potentially challenges there. So it sounds like we need to make sure that the RFP allows for either. And then when we potentially get quotes or a proposal in, we need to be able to compare the differences between the two units, the two costs, and see if there is an advantage with going with one over the other. We are not bound to go with the lowest price. That is not a requirement of a land bank in New York State. So we do have the option that if we get multiple quotes and one is higher but meets our needs better, we could pick that. So we can make this work. I just want to make sure the board is aware of the direction
Yeah.
we're going before we go to any of those paths.
And you will definitely include the locations for each of them. right?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, we want to encourage the potential manufacturers or builders to know what they're getting themselves into.
Right.
And that could also determine, which model they pick.
Right.
There's,
Yeah.
more
say
than
this
one
is
model
not
about.
feasible for
Yep.
this location.
Yep.
We don't want any surprises.
there's gonna be some. We don't want to add to them.
That's right.
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 Regarding the town leadership too, I just wanna go back to that. Upon the first of the year, many of the towns are gonna be under new leadership, so some education and new relationship brokering might be required, appetites might be shifting, who knows? I think that's, I don't know how many towns,
Grease and Gates.
no, I think there's more like Webster. Five,
Oh,
yeah.
Around the
moving
corner.
forward.
Oh, so other
Oh,
towns might be.
yeah, sorry, I'm thinking like longer term and
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
It's still with all the codes though.
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, that is, I believe, everything we have for this meeting.
Yep.
Is there anything else for anyone?
So the next regularly scheduled meeting of this board is Wednesday, January 14th, 3:30 PM. But it very well may be that there'll be a request for us to get back together before then for the audit, for all three of the RFPs.
Yep.
To make a final decision. So we'll look for, more direction on that here as we go. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second, whatever.
All in favor?
I.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.